I do want to go back to Ellie Watson right now. So, Ellie, you have some new reporting, I understand. What's the latest?
Well, Sean Parnell, the chief Pentagon spokesperson, put out a statement to the public, not just to news outlets, but to the public, that the Pentagon has sophisticated systems to ensure the safety of the building and its occupants. Those systems have detected an air quality issue necessitating precautionary measures until we determine its significance. The department is executing standard protection protocols, including a shelter-in-place order for the affected area. Response teams are in place and ready to support building occupants. What we have seen from an alert that went out within the Pentagon is that employees are told to shelter in place and listen to the big voice announcements. I do want to explain that a little bit. When there is a situation in the Pentagon, there's kind of an intercom system, if you can remember when you were in school, the principal's office. There's a big voice that'll come over and on the speakers tell you what's going on. I've only been in the building one time when that was used, and it was when a Pentagon police agent was stabbed just outside of the Pentagon because, again, there are Pentagon police officers all around maintaining levels of security before you get into the Pentagon.
You're right to compare it, for us who have never been in that situation, to the intercom at school, because that does bring up a lot of memories there. In terms of what those folks that are experiencing who are in the building or have been evacuated, we talked about this a little bit earlier. There's not a lot of information coming through. As you said, they're supposed to listen to what's coming over those the loud intercom system. Do we have any indication of whether the situation has changed with those that have been asked to shelter in place and evacuated, or everything is status quo while the hazmat team is investigating?
Everything that I know of is status quo while the hazmat team is investigating. The sources I've spoken to have been told to shelter in place, are doing so pretty calmly as this is determined what this incident is. They have not been given a lot of information other than what we have now reported on air, that they are being told to shelter in place.
Okay. And you know, as we think about what comes next, so the hazmat team is doing their investigation right now. In your experience, your reporting, what might come next after that? Once they've determined what has caused the air quality detection issue?
I think what they may do is take different samples if they find something, and then make sure they test individuals who were in the affected area. But as of right now, we still don't have any indication of what this air quality issue might have been. So it's pretty early to tell you what next steps would be.
And I know you're probably weren't reporting with the Pentagon when those incidents that Sam Vinograd mentioned, but this isn't the first time that the Pentagon has endured this kind of situation before. There are protocols in place. And so based on the fact that they have seen these types of issues before, what are some of the protocols that are in place right now that they are undergoing? I mean, this does seem to be playing out from your reporting, from the others that we have spoken to during this special report, that things are going to plan, if you will, based on their security protocols.
I think they'll try and take account of everybody, make sure that everyone in their office is doing okay. Even if they were told to evacuate, there will be some sort of all call to make sure that people who were in each office that was potentially affected are okay. And then there will be hopefully updates throughout the day on just if something was detected, what that is, if it's a false alarm, there will be communicated to throughout the day.
Now, Ellie, normally in a situation like this, we would be talking to you. You would have been at the Pentagon, but as of now, that's not where you're reporting from because of access limitations for journalists. Can you just explain a little bit more of where we would have normally found you, maybe if this was a year ago or so?
That's right. We, as a network and with several other networks, didn't sign a Pentagon press restriction policy that would have kind of, in terms of what our lawyers think, prevented the journalists from asking about information that the department didn't want to get out. We were a little careful with the language the Pentagon presented to us, didn't like it, sent it back. They said, this is our language. There is currently a lawsuit going on to help potentially get us back in the building, but as of right now, we're reporting from outside of the building. And I will say, I was not there for 9/11, but there were journalists in the building the day of 9/11 who with everyone in the building experience what happened, and we're outside reporting on the up-to-date details.
Ellie, I really appreciate the context and you keeping us up to date on the developments on the ground. I want you to stay with us. I want to go back to Samantha Vinograd. Sam, you know, you're emphasizing as we've been talking to you throughout the past half hour that we don't know yet specifically what caused this air quality detection issue. And I think that's very important to emphasize. But they are taking this very seriously. There are a set of protocols. You know, why in this situation, and it's the Pentagon, would you be taking this with such care and seriousness?
Well, when there's a potential hazmat situation, first responders and trained professionals are going to respond with the highest level of urgency until they determine that there's not actually a live incident. So certainly right now, generally, we are in a heightened threat environment, a range of international as well as domestic threat actors with capabilities with hazardous materials. However, even if we weren't, these trained individuals are going to get on scene whenever there is potential detection, likely identify some sort of incident commander, and then from there ensure that they ascertain whether there is actively a live substance that has led to the hazmat trigger. So they are going to conduct that assessment with urgency and with care based on established protocols. They're likely going to try to isolate the range of space that could be potentially impacted by this hazardous materials incident. And they're also going to try to ascertain what the actual potential threat is. Is it anthrax? Is it a noxious gas? Is it some sort of radioactive material? And they are going to work with the utmost urgency and the utmost care until they rule out that there is actually a hazardous material present. If they determine that it is a false alarm, to be clear, Kelly, they also have to think about their communications to individuals who have been sheltering in place or have evacuated to ensure that there's not kind of some sort of mass panic or unsafe method in which individuals return to work or return into the building. So the communication about even a false alarm is actually part of the hazmat response protocols and training. And so we're waiting to see if this was a false alarm or if there is actually some sort of hazardous substance presence. I do want to note it could take some time to know that, not only because this was an air detection issue. This was not a mail screening issue where the potential substance or powder, for example, could be tested immediately. It may take some time to ascertain what triggered the what we think are the environmental sensors, and then from there to communicate with individuals about how to safely return just to their normal duties.
And when you say take some time, are we talking hours? Are we talking longer than that? I mean, obviously, it's going to depend.
It's really hard to know, Kelly. It really depends. It depends on how soon they can ascertain, which sensors went. They know which sensors went off ostensibly, how many. They know what kinds of hazardous substances could trigger those air detection sensors. They are likely continuing to test the air to see if there's some sort of presence of a hazardous material, and then if so, to narrow down what that is. But it depends on a lot of factors, so it's a little hard to speculate on that. Hopefully, they'll know sooner rather than later. They can probably tell sooner rather than later if there was some sort of system malfunction. They can probably see that on the back end. So it depends. Sorry not to have a clear answer for you, but certainly the individuals sheltering in place, not to mention the friends, family, and loved ones of those individuals, want to know as soon as possible that, folks haven't been exposed to some sort of hazardous material.
You're very right. I mean, my thoughts are with those folks who don't have that information right now, that are thinking about their loved ones inside that building. And Sam, you never have to apologize for giving us the accurate information. I want you to stay there. But since we just passed the top of the hour, it's 12:05, I do want to give a recap for those that have recently joined us of where we are, what we know, and what we don't know. So currently, the Pentagon is on lockdown due to a hazmat situation. There was an air quality issue detected. We do not know what that substance is, whether it is dangerous or whether it is not, whether this is an intentional incident or if it was an accident. What we do know is that the individuals who are inside the Pentagon, remember, there are thousands of people working at the Pentagon each day. A portion have been evacuated, and then there is currently a shelter in place right now. And those that are there have been told There's not a lot of information coming in, but they are hearing those updates from an intercom system. Ellie Watson, our reporter earlier, described it as something that you might hear in school, right? We've all been there in that situation. You can remember that.